Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at the brand new PlayStation 5 exclusive game called Returnal.
Do you see the white shadow?
So recently just beat Returnal, and man, what a freaking fantastic game. I'm just gonna put this out there. So far, it's the best game I played this year in 2021. It was really good. Granted, that doesn't mean that there's all those other games are bad, because I'm still working on Ratchet and Clank. But I don't know. Maybe it's this type of game that just really draws me in. Returnal, man, I don't even know where to start because it was just so good. I'm just having all these things running through my head throughout the game. I guess, we could go through the pros and cons real quick. So this came out, I want to say April, so it did take me a little bit to beat this. This isn't something, at least for me, I'm not, a pro or anything, so I couldn't sit there and beat it in one sitting or anything like that. So it did take me quite a while to beat this game. It is definitely difficult, and I've heard lots of people complain about the difficulty. I had lots of people, say that it's as hard or as harder as a Dark Souls game or a Bloodborne game. And don't get me wrong, the game is definitely hard. It's not something like a casual, person that's playing, the regular. I don't want to say easy games, because it's there's games that are easy. That doesn't mean that they're bad, because I'm freaking playing Ratchet and Clank, and it's a flippin' easy game, but it's still a great game. So, excuse me. But yeah, some of the, I guess since we're talking about difficulty, we'll just go right into difficulty. First off, like I said, game is really hard. It has no difficulty settings at all. There's no easy, there's no normal, it's just hard. And yeah, I've heard lots of people say that it's kind of like a Souls game, but I don't want to say that, because it's definitely hard, but I wouldn't say it's hard in the same way that Dark Souls or Bloodborne is hard. Its hardness, I don't know, I feel like they're two different, because Bloodborne and Dark Souls, it's hard, but it's the From Software games are so precise in how they make their bosses and how they make enemies that whenever you make a mistake, it's usually because you made the mistake and you died because you swung a different time when you really should have blocked or dodged away, stuff like that. And it's the enemies themselves are extremely difficult. The levels are difficult. And Returnal is similar in a sense. I guess the only thing that these two games have in common is that they're both hard, for sure. Returnal's difficulty stems from yes, the enemies are hard, but I felt the random enemies that you see throughout all the levels, if you're gonna kind of compare them, they're not as hard as Bloodborne or a Souls game. But the difference is in Dark Souls you have your Estus flask, or you have your blood vials, right, that you can heal, that you automatically get. I guess Bloodborne's a little different, you have to kind of farm them, but still you can get vials. Here you have no healing items at all. The things that you start out with is nothing. All the healing stuff that you find is throughout the game, and it's all random. So I think that's what makes it hard, is one, that it's random, and two, it's the nature of the game. It's a roguelite, however you want to say it. I don't freaking know. But yeah, so that's where it comes, that's difficulty from, is that it's different every time, and you're not guaranteed to get the same healing items or amount of healing items in one run opposed to another run, because there's tons of runs where I'd go through, and yes, you still get quite a few healing items, but I was trying to get to max, or at least get the, over 200 HP, and there's lots of runs where I just never got close to that. And then there's other runs where I got over 200 XP, or not XP, health, sorry. and was able to get the Martian and the chamber thing that, you know, so it's like extra lives and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's where I'm gonna say it's like they're both, the only thing that those games have in common is that they're hard. So I kind of struggle with this game. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, all I'm trying to say is that the game is hard, but don't be scared away if you're not really into like From Software games like Bloodborne, Dark Souls. Don't let that scare you away, because as far as like gameplay goes and everything else, they're vastly different. The only thing that they share in common is that they're both hard. So now, after I went off the whole rant for like what, freaking 10 minutes about how hard the game is, let's get in some of the pros that I really enjoyed about this game. So, like I said at the beginning, this is a PlayStation 5 exclusive, and the game looks freaking beautiful, looks freaking fantastic. The graphics are top-notch, and just the way that they make the game look, like it's very dark and very Lovecraftian style, which I really, really like. And that was one thing that like really drawed me to that, is because I'm a huge fan of Bloodborne, and Bloodborne is heavily based off of like Lovecraftian horror with like the weird alien tentacle monsters, and this is literally no different. Like there's tons, almost every enemy's got some sort of like tentacle type things to them, and they're all, I mean, alien planet. So but yeah, the graphics look so good, combined with that and the haptic feedback of the PlayStation DualSense controller, it was freaking awesome. Like you're going through and you can feel the like the raindrops in the controller. And not only that, they have like the half triggers, so like pulling the trigger halfway down will do like a lock on, so you can, you know, aim your gun and lock on if you wanted to. But if you pull it all the way down and then hit the trigger on the other side, like the R2 trigger, excuse me, I got hiccups or something, it'll do like an alternate fire mode for your gun that, I mean, has to recharge over time, but it's like you got your normal fire and then you got your mega move basically for your weapon, and it does a lot more damage. So kind of those together just like really like sucked me in, especially like the gameplay and the aesthetic of the game, all freaking fantastic. Returnal has a bunch of different weapons as well. You kind of have to mix and match and kind of figure out what your I guess your playstyle is. You got like your standard like assault type rifle. These are all alien guns, by the way, minus your sidearm that you get at the very beginning that you get every single time, and it's just a pistol. But there's I don't know, I think there's like 10 different guns, I think, and I didn't even experiment with all of them. I just found like the 2 guns that I really enjoyed, and I kind of just stuck with them throughout the whole game. I really, really loved the carbine at first. That's like your typical assault rifle. And then I switched to this gun called the Housarque, which I favored most because, one, it had the most amount of ammo out of all the guns, and it had like the bullets kind of like had a homing type thing, so you can like shoot from the side and you could see them curving or whatever. So all the weapons super good. As far as like the story goes, the story I thought was really, really good. Like think of what's that movie? Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise, where he like dies, and every time he's restarting his life over and over again until he can figure out how to get to this home base of the alien planet, something like that. I haven't seen the movie in a while, but I just know that he basically every time he dies it resets the day. So think of like that mixed with Interstellar. So Interstellar is a fantastic movie, very sci-fi horror type towards the and it's kind of like those two like mashed together, and I freaking love it. Sprinkled it with some Lovecraftian horror, and it's freaking awesome. Let's see, the world, the what is this world called? Atropos is freaking crazy. I loved it. There's like 6 total biomes. You start out in like this like I think it's like overgrown ruins. It's kind of like a foresty jungle type biome, and then after you beat that, you go into like a barren desert, and then from the barren desert you go to, it's like this almost like a cave like structure where it's got like more like buildings and stuff. It's like where like the aliens used to like kind of build, and there's a lot more machines and stuff in this area, so kind of like a deserted city type thing. And then from there you go to the overgrown ruins again, but time has like passed, so the overgrown ruins are even like more overgrown, and it's like you see like your ship's all rusted, and so it's a little different but kind of the same, but it looks different and the layout is a little bit different. And then you go to like the frozen wasteland. So you got a barren wasteland, a frozen wasteland with snow, and all the enemies do something a little different depending on which biome you're in, and they're definitely much more difficult depending on the biome you're in. And then the last one, you're underwater, and they all kind of do something a little different, like because there's parts in like the ice one that if you get hit with like the slick ice, it'll be hard for you to move. You get kind of frozen to the ground. And then in the water biome, if you jump, it's kind of hard because like you fly. It's almost because you have less gravity and you're more buoyant, and so you fly much further. And there's a few times that I literally almost died because I jumped, but I jumped way past the platform I was trying to reach on. So all the level design and the multiple areas kept the game being fresh. And on top of that, it's called a roguelite or roguelike. I'm not really sure what the difference is. All I know is that a rogue game basically just means when you die, you start all the way back at the beginning, you lose all your items, you lose everything. So that's kind of like the nature of the game, but because of like the way the story is, like when you die it's repeating itself, it totally fits together perfectly. At least in my opinion, I thought it was fantastic. I don't know. I know Hades is another rogue game, and I'm not sure how that works. I know it's going to be coming to PlayStation. I also kind of want to get it for my Switch though, but I don't have a capture card yet, so I probably won't, just because I want to record it. But yeah, going off of that, it is a roguelite. I don't really know. Not everything starts over, like certain weapon upgrades, like once you upgrade, because after using your weapon, the more you use a certain weapon, the more abilities you unlock. So all that stuff carries over to your next playthrough. Whenever you open like a chest or like a door, those are usually permanent, because I found like my first couple playthroughs, like almost everything, every chest was locked, every door was locked, and you had to find like these Atropos keys to unlock them. And the more I played, like especially that first area, because that first area was probably the hardest for me, because I was just learning the ropes, trying to figure out how to freaking play this game. And so a lot of things were locked, and I noticed that like the more I played, the more I ran into things. And on top of that, like every time you die, like the game changes. So it's not like you're running through the same level over and over again. It's like, yes, you're running through the same biome over and over again, but the way that the level is like it's kind of hard to explain. It's like basically it's not the same run over and over again. Like you might have your ship here and you go to a room that's filled with a ton of enemies, and then the next time you die and come back, there's like your house mansion that's stuck on this planet somehow. And you go and you kind of explore it. But I've gotten a few times where I went from my ship, went through the first door, and boom, it was my house. And I was like, oh, okay, that's weird. And then I had one times where I died, and boom, opened the door, and there's literally like a frick ton of enemies already right out the gate. So whenever you die, the whole levels are just scrambled. And there's even stuff that even to this day that I haven't actually opened the door or unlocked the chest, because there's just so many different possibilities. And I really enjoy that. It keeps the game fresh, keeps you wanting to play, so it's not like you're running the same thing over and over again. Let's see, we got roguelite, haptic feedback, the world, and then last but not least, for the good things that I freaking loved about this game was the bosses. Dude, the bosses were so good in this game. They're very flashy, very cinematic. The freaking music, the soundtracks for this were freaking on point, and I loved the crap out of them. As far as like bosses go, there's only 5 bosses, so there's 6 biomes, 5 bosses. The snow biome was basically a boss level in itself, because it was definitely the hardest biome to go through. But every biome had a boss, minus the 5th one, which was, like I said, was the snow. And I think I struggled with the first boss, literally, like it was the hardest boss for me. And I don't know if it really was or if it was just because I didn't exactly know, but I'm like going back and thinking about it, and I felt like that the first boss was more aggressive than any of the other bosses, because the first boss is called like Frike. I think I said that right. And he gets like up in your face, and he does like this move where he like charges at you and he hits you, and it like stuns you, and then he does like this weird like backhand because he's got like 3 arms, and that kills a ton of your health. And so I just kind of felt like that the first boss was was much more aggressive. So I think it took me like 3 or 4 tries to actually beat him. And then the next boss, I'm gonna forget all their names here, but on the desert planet, that one took me 2 tries. What was the third one? I don't. Oh yeah, the third one was the one with the platform. So all the bosses were freaking awesome. I think my favorite bosses though. So like, yeah, the first one I think was definitely the hardest boss for me. But then the last 2 bosses were probably my favorite bosses. The 4th boss I particularly really liked because I just liked the story behind it. It was kind of crazy because it's like it's this giant, like throughout this whole level you hear this faint music playing, and the closer and closer you get to the boss, the louder the music gets, until you're climbing this, ascending this big old tower, and the music's just getting louder and louder as you go up, and by the time you get to the top, like you look down and you see this giant, like crazy looking beast, and he's playing like this organic organ. And a little bit before that, you see like this. There's a bunch of like little tablets all over the maps in every biome, and it gives you like a little bit of description of what happened in this world. And you come across this one where it talks about how shoot, I forget his name. Like I don't know. It doesn't matter what his name was. I forget. But he was tethered to this organ, cursed to play this song for eternity. And so the soundtrack was really good for that boss fight, and it was kind of cool because like he would like rip himself away from the organ and like blast you with all these bullets and hellfire, and then it like sucked him back into the organ, and it was, I don't know, it was just a really good boss fight. I also beat that one first try, and I beat the last boss first try. Both of them were pretty hard and freaking fantastic. I think that's really what made this game, is like the bosses were so good. And yeah, that's kind of like all the stuff that the majority. I mean, there's a bunch of other stuff, and I'm sure I'm forgetting, a few things. But the last but not least, like I said, the story was amazing. It was one of those ones that, like, the more it doesn't give it to you right up front, like it's like, oh, you're trying to figure out this. It's like you think you're trying to figure out how to get off this planet. Well, actually, time out. Spoilers, because I'm gonna try to talk. I can't talk about the story without freaking spoiling it. So, if you guys haven't, I mean, what are we at, like 20 minutes? If you guys have made it this far and I spoiled something, I'm sorry, but we're gonna talk about the story now. The story, it's like mysterious. You like crash on this planet. Your name is Celine, and you are reliving these moments over and over again. And every time you die, and you're trying to get back off the planet, well, as the story keeps going, you find out little hints here and there, and then every time you beat a boss or get to a new area, you get this new house sequence, and you can go through the house, and you get like this new, basically more information that kind of ties in to figure out what is actually going on in this story. And at the very end, like, you figure out that this whole time, that you were never actually an astronaut. At least this is because it's not like a direct bit. A lot of this is like up for interpretation, so I could be totally wrong about a lot of this stuff. But what I got from it was that Celine really wanted to be an astronaut because her mother was trying to push her to be an astronaut, and because of that tension of always trying to impress her mother, and her mother just not being like there for her, it kind of had this negative output on her life. And Celine ends up having a kid, and she's kind of doing the same cycle that she was with her mom, the same cycle of hatred for each other. So basically, Celine is trying to become an astronaut, and she doesn't make the cut from some of the stuff that I was reading, and you can see that she's stressed out because you see like a letter saying that she wasn't qualified or whatever, and so she's driving home with her kid in the back seat. And they're driving and she sees an astronaut, or the white noise is what they're referring it to, but it's, once you figure it out, it's like, I believe it's a white astronaut, and she swerves off the road to try not to hit him, and then they crash into the water. And this whole time, like, and her kid dies because it shows like this weird tentacle monster save her and pull her out. And I think it's like her like this is all happening, all these worlds and everything is all happening in Celine's head. And it just like blew my mind. I was like, are you kidding me? Like all these levels, this is her trying to cope with her guilt and her nightmares, and she's trying to like, she's buried them so deep that you playing as Celine are trying to figure it out, because she's buried herself so much from the trauma of losing her mom and then being responsible for the reason why her child is dead. And so I don't know, just all of it, like, that's why I said it's kind of like, it reminded me of Interstellar, where like at the very end, like, he gets in the black hole and he's seeing his life, like the story that you thought it was, like, bloomed into something completely different than what you originally thought it was going to be. And it was freaking fantastic. I loved it. Granted, I'm missing lots of bits and pieces here. I don't want to talk about it too crazy in depth, because I do encourage you guys to play the game if you have a PlayStation 5. Freaking go get it. It's hard, be warned, but it's good. Moving on to the thing that I didn't like, and I literally only have one thing that I didn't like. The only thing that I didn't like is a lot of people complained that there was no saves in this game, and I actually didn't mind that there wasn't any saves in this game, because I've played lots of games where you go and there's not necessarily, like Dark Souls, it's like you have to get to a certain point to where you get a bonfire or a lantern and you gotta save it. If you die in between, you start back at the other one. Well, I wasn't too, I guess, annoyed that there wasn't a save point. I was more annoyed that the runs were so long to complete. Like, and that's the thing right there. The thing that I didn't like, runs were too long. Because I'd be playing, you always start at the beginning every time. For the first 3 biomes, you start at the same, and then after you beat the 3rd biome, if you die, you restart at because it goes 1, 2, 3, and then you go to the 4th biome, and every time you die from 4, 5, and 6, you restart at the 4th biome. So it's not like you're starting over every 6, biomes again that you have to do. And they create shortcuts, so it's not like you got to redo the levels all over again. But the reason I'm saying that the runs were too long is that, like, you'd be going, and especially like when you're on those later biomes, like biome 3 or biome 6, and it took you like 45 minutes, and like I said, the runs are totally different. So you'd have some runs that would take you literally like 10 minutes, and you can get what you needed to get to, biome 3 or biome 6, no problem. But there's other times where you're not really leveled up very much, and so you're trying to get as much health as possible, and so you're running through biome 1, 2, and 3, and by the time like you got really good, and you would die, right? But it took you like 30 minutes to do this one run. 30 minutes, I feel like that was my average time, 30 minutes, sometimes like 40, 45, and so like it just made it really frustrating, because I'd have like this, like the instance that I'm thinking of as I want to say I was on the 5th biome, because the 5th biome just really just kicked the crap out of me, and I had like the astronaut figurine, which if you don't know is basically an extra life. I had the Reconstructor, which is like this big alien machine that prevents you from going back to the ship. It's kind of like an extra life, but at least with the astronaut, like if you're in a boss fight and you use that and you die, the astronaut figurine will literally bring you back right there in the boss fight. Excuse me. But the Reconstructor brings you back to wherever the Reconstructor was. So, but yeah, so I was doing that, and I had a ton of health. Which I was really trying to get as much health as I possibly can so that I would have enough. And then I'd get all this way, and it took me like 40, 45 minutes, and then there was just like a gauntlet of enemies for one of the Atropos keys, and I was so mad because I did so good. I got 2 keys, and then I take this like containment gate, which had one of the keys in it, and you'd fight like these dudes that can teleport, and they have swords and they have guns, and they're really tough enemies. Well, like 5 spawned at once, and so it's like boom, 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 life gone. And I was like, gosh dang it. Yeah, and so I came back and I was trying to fight them, and I died like almost immediately because they were all like right there. And then I used the reconstructor, run back, and I try my best. Well, actually, if you do the reconstructor, when you leave that area, you have to start all over. So when I came back, I had to kill all those enemies over again, and then I got to the 5 freaking sword dudes, and they killed me again, and I was so mad. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? This literally took me like 30-40 minutes. And that's really what killed it sometimes, is because the runs took so long that when it did, I literally had to quit for a little bit, because I was like, you know what, I'm done for today, and I'd take it out and I'd play something else. And that was like the only thing that I really disliked. Everything else, absolutely loved. And it's a hard thing to kind of get by, like when a game like pulls you out of it because the runs are too long. I feel like if it took a little less time, and actually, you know what, as I'm making this video, I know that they did update it. I had already beaten the game at this point, but I did hear that they updated it to lower the, I guess, difficulty on some of the all the biomes together. But the 5th biome was a freaking nightmare, and I heard that they made that one a little bit easier because it was just spawning enemies. Because there's a problem with enemies having too much health or doing too much damage, and you not doing enough damage. So it's kind of like a negative on both the enemies and for you. And so, but yeah, that was the only thing that I really it just kind of really bugged me, that the runs took way too long to complete, and it pulled me out. But with all that, you know, I'm looking at that and I think about all the great things that this game had, all the boss fights, all the graphics, with the haptic feedback, the story, all of it together. Overall, I had a great experience with this game. I stuck with it. It's hard. But any of those other hard games, like you stick with it, you start to figure out patterns, and you start to figure out what to do and what not to do. Like don't do this and don't do that. Like I figured out like the parasites, like which ones really helped me and which ones just, after getting them so many times, I was like, okay, I know I really need this health, but I'm not going to pick you up, because every time I pick you up, you have a bad influence on me. Excuse me. But yeah, so with all those put together, I was kind of jumping around between 2 different numbers, and for me personally, I would give this game a 9.5 out of 10. It was so good. It was so fantastic, and I know not everyone's going to share my opinion on that. I know a lot of people will probably rate it lower. And I could see why. That's why I'm not going to fault anyone for rating it like a 7 or 5 or freaking a 0. So, because I can see that this is like a hard game. It's not like a Dark Souls game, because I personally freaking love those games, and I'm going to rate them high. Like I'm super excited for Elden Ring, and I know it's going to blow me away, but I can see that those are like niche type games, and not everyone kind of enjoys those type of games. But this isn't like that, but I could see that the roguelike genre is like that. So, this was my first roguelite or roguelike. I don't really know what the freaking difference is, but I've heard both those terms thrown around. But like I said, guys, 9.5 out of 10. Freaking love this game. Boss fights, mwah. Graphics, mwah. Anyways, guys, let me know what you guys thought down in the comments. Have you guys played Returnal yet? If you haven't, are you planning to? I would highly recommend it. Oh, real quick, but it is $70, so it is a little bit pricey, but in my opinion, it's worth it. So that's it for the video, guys. Thanks everyone. If you made it this far, you guys are freaking awesome. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, show your support by leaving a like on the video and consider being a subscriber. And yeah, we'll catch you guys on the next video.